All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we are looking at something wild, a hidden multi-billion-dollar roadblock in the electric vehicle revolution. But more importantly, we're looking at the booming industry that's literally rebuilding the whole system to solve it. Right now, there is this massive shift happening entirely behind the scenes of commercial transportation. And trust me, it completely flips how we think about energy infrastructure on its head.
Okay, so everyone and their mother is buying an EV right now, right? But as these massive commercial fleets start to scale up, we're rapidly running out of places to actually plug them in. It is a logistical nightmare. And that brings us to a fundamental question, one that kind of changes everything. What if the charger came to the car? For decades, the industry just built permanent stations and basically told America, hey, drive to us. But what if power didn't have to just sit there while vehicles are, always on the move?
Think about traditional fixed-grid chargers, like giant, heavy anchors. They literally take years to build. Now compare that to these new mobile chargers. They're more like agile sails. They deploy in days and can scale up instantly. In the old way of doing things, a fleet manager might spend a year and an absolute fortune building infrastructure that could be obsolete before the concrete even dries. The new way? It's all battery-powered, totally grid-free, and it gets dropped right at a loading dock, a highway shoulder, or a construction site. Literally whenever and wherever you need it. So let's get into Section 1, the hidden EV gridlock, or when vehicle fleets outpace the electrical grid. See, right now, commercial fleets and autonomous vehicles are super eager to electrify, but honestly, the grid is just not ready for them. Not even close. Fleets are staring down these massive hurdles. We're talking intensely expensive construction and absolutely agonizing distribution network operator queues. Actually, scratch that. It's more like total gridlock, stalling operations for 2 to 4 years. Companies like SparkCharge and BCharge EV are pointing out that these fleets are under immense pressure to hit green mandates, but their depots just don't have the electrical juice. Imagine buying a brand new fleet of electric delivery vans, but you are stuck in a multi-year waiting list for the utility company to upgrade your local power lines. Your whole business is effectively frozen, no way around it. Which brings us to Section 2, power that comes to you. Bypassing the grid with battery-integrated charging. So instead of just sitting around waiting for the grid to finally catch up, an entirely new industry paradigm has popped up to bring the power directly to the vehicles. It's like if the grid is a traffic jam, companies like SparkCharge just built a flying car to bypass it. They're proving fleets can be fully operational in just days. Here's how it works. Before any hardware even ships, AI software runs the numbers on the specific fleet mix, their schedule, and the site conditions. Then, boom, the mobile battery systems are dropped right into place. No trenching the concrete, no waiting on multi-year permits, no grid upgrades. A depot that would have been waiting 4 years for power is suddenly up and running in just 7 days. That's a real game changer. We call these mobile energy storage systems. They essentially act as an interim, or honestly, even a long-term energy solution. They provide continuous on-site generation without needing a permanent grid connection at all. We are talking about massive, heavy-duty, commercial-grade power hubs here. And the absolute best part, when the local utility grid does finally get upgraded years later, these systems don't just become giant paperweights. They seamlessly integrate that new grid power into their existing battery networks, creating this incredibly optimized multi-source power hub. All right, moving to Section 3, fleets going off the grid, the immense scale and momentum of the mobile charging movement. Now, you might be wondering, is this just some niche concept? Absolutely not. It is attracting serious institutional capital and rolling out globally at a crazy pace. Just look at the cash flowing into this space. Orange EV just recently locked down a staggering $100 million credit facility led by Wells Fargo to expand their rapidly deployable OptiGrid charging solutions. Look, when you see major financial institutions backing mobile, battery-integrated fast charging to the tune of 9 figures, yeah, you know this tech has officially moved from a cool idea to an absolutely foundational infrastructure strategy. To add to that, L-Charge has already surpassed 10 gigawatt-hours of energy delivered to fleets. To put that massive number into perspective for you, that is enough juice to power thousands of homes. They've facilitated over 250,000 charging sessions, totally free of any grid delays. That is a gargantuan amount of power, bypassing the traditional utility grid entirely, which proves without a doubt that fleets can sustain heavy, daily operations strictly using mobile energy networks. The momentum here is just undeniable. You've got SparkCharge expanding into the UK to tackle their specific grid delays, BCharge scaling this nationwide 24/7 network across all 50 states, and Exos securing multi-million-dollar orders to power rapidly expanding autonomous vehicle fleets.
Think about those autonomous fleet operators for a second. They are growing so fast, they literally cannot afford to wait for local utilities. They just went ahead and bought 12 Exos hubs so they can enter new markets entirely on their own schedule. Talk about taking matters into your own hands.
And the financial opportunity perfectly mirrors this urgent demand. The global mobile storage market is projected to absolutely skyrocket from $58 billion in 2025 up to $156 billion by 2032. That 15% annual growth rate is fueled entirely by one very simple reality. The world's electrical grids just cannot keep pace with the electrification of commercial transportation. Period.
Let's check out Section 4, Olympics and Defense Testing, pushing mobile charging concepts to their absolute limits. So, why does this matter on a global stage? Well, if mobile charging can survive these next extreme environments, it can survive literally anything. According to a recent white paper by Exos, the upcoming LA 28 Olympics is staring down a staggering 117 megawatt-hour daily power gap across its venues that the current grid flat out cannot support. That is an insane amount of power needed for lighting, broadcasting, security, the whole shebang, across more than 40 different sites and right in the middle of peak summer grid demand, no less. Now here's the catch. The Olympics committed to using 100% renewable energy and leaving zero permanent infrastructure behind. Because of those two rules, diesel generators fail the test and permanent grid connections fail the test. The trade-off is pretty clear, right? Diesel is temporary, but it's terrible for emissions. The permanent grid is clean, but it completely violates the promise to leave no new permanent structures. So, by process of elimination, mobile energy hubs become the absolute only viable answer to satisfy both of these critical commitments at the same time. These mobile AC power hubs are incredible. They can scale up to 6.3 megawatt-hours of capacity per venue, deploy in a matter of days, run completely independent of the grid, and then just pack up and redeploy to emergency services or film sets once the games are over. They're actually proposing pairing these massive batteries with portable solar arrays. If they pull it off, they'll effectively be running the world's largest sporting event completely off-grid. How cool is that?
And guess who else is tapping into this exact same technology? The U.S. Air Force. They recently contracted Exos to deliver ruggedized prototype hubs, which is a massive leap into the defense sector. The military absolutely needs reliable power for their electrified support vehicles, especially in remote, off-grid environments where running a giant extension cord to a local utility just isn't going to happen. What this really shows us is that from the military to global sporting events, all the way to last-mile delivery and data centers, mobile power is proving to be a universal requirement. The applications are just incredibly diverse, which proves that grid constraints are a universal bottleneck across pretty much every major industry trying to modernize today.
Finally, let's wrap things up with Section 5, rebuilding infrastructure in motion. The EV transition is no longer tethered to the electrical grid.
The ultimate takeaway you should have from this whole explainer is that the EV transition has officially cut the cord. It has severed its total reliance on traditional infrastructure. We are no longer waiting for the wires to catch up to the cars. The pioneers over at BeCharge EV hit the nail right on the head when they summarized this massive market shift. They said they didn't join the charging industry, they rebuilt it in motion. They recognized that sending millions of drivers and fleet operators out to hunt for stationary power was just the wrong approach. Instead, they engineered the power to go find them.
Which leaves us with this final kind of provocative thought for you to chew on. If we can now deploy massive energy infrastructure in days rather than years, how much faster will the clean energy revolution truly accelerate? When the speed of innovation is no longer anchored by the sluggish speed of utility construction, the possibilities are practically limitless. Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer, and we will definitely see you next time.